Hello, welcome and thank you for visiting the Open Leadership channel. My name is Michael Breeze, and on this video covering the last of the 4 helpful beliefs for leaders, I'll explain why asking questions is much better than giving answers. Now I hope you find this video useful, and do stay until the end to find out how you can access more free resources elsewhere. And if you haven't subscribed yet, it would be a massive help to me if you could. It makes it far easier for me to carry on making free resources for those who need it or want it if you subscribe, so please do. Thank you. In the last 3 videos, I explained why, if you're to become a good leader, there are 3 very helpful beliefs, which are: it's not about you, your weakness is your strength, and your team is smarter than you. Now, if you haven't watched those yet, I strongly recommend that you do, to get the full benefits of the helpful beliefs, because they are something of a suite, as a set that stay together. And as I say, in this video, I'll cover the last of the 4 helpful beliefs, and the last one being asking questions is much better than giving answers. Now, why do I say that? Why do I say that asking questions is much better than giving answers? Well, if you accept the belief from the last video that your team is smarter than you might feel that it leaves you with a dilemma. How do you lead your people if they know better than you? If they have knowledge, if they have understanding of their working situation that you need to access, are you supposed to just leave them to their own devices, let them make it up for themselves whilst you put your feet up? How do you add value to your team? How do you lead them if that belief stands? Now, I've had a lot of leaders challenge me when I ask them to accept that questions are much better than giving answers. Some have said things to me like, but if my people don't know a good way to solve their problem or carry out some new task, I tell them, why wouldn't I? Or even, if I'm not here to tell my people what to do, what am I here for? A question I've heard more than once. Now, these apparently common sense views of leadership remain strong in many leaders because they seem, at face value, to be, well, common sense. Now, added to that, leaders often experience, when they tell their people how to solve a problem or to complete a new task, they feel they're being helpful, they feel they've been a hero, or they've helped their team. They're often thanked by their team or even praised for doing so. So their common sense view, their view of leadership is reinforced. Now, for many leaders in that situation, the only doubts that they might experience about the common sense approach is when something goes wrong as the team or an individual carries out their decisions, their instructions. Now, most leaders with that belief set will either think then that they, the leader, have learned a lesson. They'll give a different instruction next time in that situation, or delegate a more refined plan because they've learned from that mistake, or they'll think that the team didn't execute their decision, their plan very well, and maybe they'll delegate in a much more detailed and more directive way next time round. But open leaders who ask great questions know something that would help these common sense leaders enormously. And that is that decisions and plans made without asking great questions, including and especially of the people who are going to execute the work, are far more likely to fail or fall short of the expected result or outcome. Now, the principle here can be much more clearly explained by example. So let's take a look at a couple of dialogues showing both the closed and the open leadership base. That's the non-questioning and the using great questions approach. Now, in the scenario you're about to watch, the manager of a fast-moving consumer goods warehouse is talking to one of the team leaders about a task that's been delegated the day before. First approach, conversation 1. So, how's that new product stock location task going? Terrible, boss. We're only halfway through the job and we're already a day over schedule. Okay, well, take some of the folk from the order picking team. They're not busy at the moment, and keep me informed of progress. Bye. Conversation 2, a day later. Hey, how come you're not finished on the new product? You had the extra team members, and now the order picking team is behind schedule, and you still haven't got the job done. What happened? Well, the order pickers didn't know how to build the new racking system either, so it took hours just to get the storage area built. You didn't tell me the problem was the racking. I thought it was about the stock put away. Of course the pickers don't know how to build the new racking. How would they? Now, in this scenario, there's a very simple example of how things can go wrong when not enough good questions are asked. In this situation, Sam, the boss, perhaps believed that the problem was like one she'd solved before, and so jumped to the solution that had worked on that occasion. That can be a cause of a lack of questions. Or she may have just felt the need to be decisive and give an order. a very common problem. Or perhaps she was on the way to an important meeting and didn't really didn't stop to think very much before she gave an order. Whatever the reason, and I see many reasons for this, the result was failure. So let's now take a look at how a more open leader using questions might have approached the same situation. Second approach, conversation 1. So Alex, how's that new product stock location task going? Terrible, Sam. We're only halfway through the job and we're already a day over schedule. Oh, okay. Why is it such hard going? Well, I don't know. The new racking system is really hard to put together and we don't have any instructions for it. We've had to start again several times after early mistakes. We're still not sure if we've got it figured out really, but we're set to try again to build it this afternoon. That sounds frustrating. Are there supposed to be instructions with it? I don't know. There weren't any, so I assumed it must be straightforward and we were supposed to just figure it out for ourselves. How do you feel about trying again before being sure you've got it figured? Well, now that you ask, I'm pretty worried. We can't afford to fall further behind and the team is getting really frustrated. Yeah, I can see why that's a worry. Do you have any other options? Well, I suppose I could call the tech team at HQ. They might be able to guide us. Good idea. And if they can't, or nobody's there immediately, or is there anyone else who knows about this system? Well, I seem to remember the Birmingham site had to install this system last month. I could call Joe and ask him about it. Okay, so who do you think you'll call first? Well, the tech team might have the official guidance. That should be easy to follow, I guess. I think I'll try them first, and if we don't get that far there, I'll call Joe to see what they figured out. Sounds like a good plan. When can you update me? I'll call you as soon as I have some working instructions. Then I should be able to know enough to forecast a completion time. Thanks, Alex. Conversation 2, a day later. That new racking system looks pretty smart. How's the team feeling after the build? Pretty good, I think. Once we had the proper instructions, it was plain sailing. Yeah, you certainly got it built pretty quickly after we spoke. Well done. The start was quite frustrating, though. How can we avoid that in future, do you think? Yeah, I have to put my hand up there. I should have realised sooner that the team were getting fed up and that we were spinning our wheels. I could see looks of exasperation on their faces when I came back with the instructions. I overheard one of them saying that they'd already discussed the fact there should be some instructions and we should have checked that first and saved a lot of wasted time and energy. So, is your team mad with you? Well, more disappointed, I think. How are you going to resolve that? I guess I should apologise to them and face up to my mistake. Okay, that's a good start. Do you think that will fully restore their trust in you? Well, maybe I need to assure them that in future I'll ask for their views before giving instructions. They're a good group, and if I had listened this time, we might have avoided a lot of trouble. Sounds good. When do you think we can have that conversation? I'm planning to get them together at the end of the shift for a wrap-up later, so I'll do it then. That sounds like a good lesson learned, Alex. Well done. Now, I think the power of asking good questions is clear from that second approach in the warehouse. Now, of course, in many ways, this is a small and even slightly silly example, but I've watched millions of dollars and pounds get wasted whilst poor decisions and poor attempts at problem solving spin the organization's wheels, often with failed attempt after failed attempt to address an issue or solve a problem, all because nobody was asking enough or good enough questions, and sometimes, in fact, commonly, no questions at all. Now, in the two versions that we just saw and heard, the nature of the second approach, the open leadership approach, the question-based approach, is worth thinking about and drawing out a few key points. Firstly, the manager, Sam, gives absolutely no instructions and mostly only asks questions. Sam believes that the best answers are in Alex's head already, and that asking questions will allow Alex the headspace, the opportunity to distill them for himself. Now, it's not true in every situation that you come across. Not every problem can be solved by just asking questions and drawing out the actual answer in people's heads. But if you try asking great questions, you will be amazed just how often the team knows an answer, but doesn't feel it's their job to think it through. It doesn't think it's for them. It's the leader's job in so many cultures. And if you ask the right questions, even if the actual answer, how to build the racking, isn't in their heads, where they might go for help is. So again, questions, using that power of distilling the thoughts that are in the individuals or the team's heads already to come up with answers, even if the answer is find better help elsewhere. Secondly, the second point worth drawing out is that by taking this approach, this question-based approach, Sam shows respect and treats Alex as an equal. Sam demonstrates curiosity about the problem. She establishes a spirit of joint discovery, so that in this way, the pair of them, Sam and Alex, can work together, find out together about the issue and the possible solutions. It's not someone being smarter and knowing the answer, it's them together working to find the solutions by the leader asking good questions. The third point to draw out is that Sam's questions are structured as a simple problem-solving process. Now, when you use and role model this approach repeatedly, the approach offers a model of behavior and a model of thinking for solving problems methodically and leading people effectively too. And so in effect, Sam is opening the way for Alex to learn an effective way to think about and address issues and problems as they arise, but also how to think about leading his people in perhaps the same way as well. Now, for a more complex problem, or where less facts are known than this very simple example, the conversation would be very different and the approach would be different. And we will explore the full problem-solving methodology in a later video. But this was effectively a small distilled problem-solving approach. And the final point I wanted to draw out is that the question-based second approach passes full ownership of the solution to Alex. Not just the responsibility for following orders, but the responsibility for solving the problem stays with Alex, not just the responsibility for carrying out orders from Sam. Now, it's important to note that this approach is not a soft option. I'll sometimes hear from leaders that not giving orders, not telling people what to do, is a sort of overly soft, gentle, fluffy approach to leadership. This approach is aimed at real, actionable solutions and commitments to that action. Sam, in the example, never lets Alex go without committing to a clear, timed actions, but always through questions only. Just because Sam never says, here is the answer, or do this doesn't mean Alex isn't being led. The difference is that Sam's leadership is about respect, about good solutions, and about learning. It's not about looking good, looking clever, being the hero, or being in charge. Now, if we look at how these different approaches might play out in graphic terms, in terms of results and impact in the business, the scale of the consequences of the difference between the two approaches can become very clear. Now, in this first graph, we're going to have a y-axis, which is the results that are being measured and targeted, and an x-axis, which is the lapsed time. The time units are numbered, depending on the nature of the problem or the work plan. These could be days, weeks, months, or even years. For simplicity, we'll call them weeks in this example. So, in this example, our closed leader has a problem or a need for results improvements. Okay, the leader has a think, comes up with a solution or a plan of action for his team to execute, and then the leader delegates the work, and by the end of the second week, by the end of week 2, the team can set about the execution of the leader's plan. Now, because the plan was not well informed, because there were not enough questions, not enough near the action knowledge in the decision and the plan, the result is far less than hoped, and you can see they've not moved very much up the x-axis at all. So the leader has another think, and the cycle is repeated, but still with a shortfall in the targeted results that they were hoping for. So the leader has a longer think, and the cycle repeats again. But by the end of week 10, the targeted results still have not been fully delivered. Now, as I've said, this is an incredibly common cycle of failure and waste, but let's look at what a more open and enlightened leader's team might achieve. The open leader starts by connecting the whole team to the problem, its causes, the needs for improvement, the rationale behind it. The team then work on the problem together, combining their close to the action knowledge, their working preferences, their skills, and they agree a way forward together. The team then takes action a little later than in the previous example, the start of week 4, as opposed to the end of week 2 in the earlier example, the closed example. But the action gets early success. It's further up that axis already, and so it runs for longer because the plan is better developed with more complete local or on-the-spot knowledge. And because the team are also more enthused about making it work. They apply themselves more fully to its execution, perhaps making minor adjustments to the original plan as they go to address unforeseen issues. Now, the first attempt isn't 100% successful, typically not, but by the end of week 5, it's already outrun the closed leaders team by quite a margin. It's far higher up that x-axis, and it's still on an upward track. But then, because it hasn't yet 100% succeeded, there's a regathering of the team to discuss the issues and look for improvements to the work. And by week 9, the results have been exceeded. They're above target. Now, of course, this is a made-up example and only exists on these slides. But this is absolutely typical of the difference between the more open and enlightened leadership approach and the common sense closed leadership approach that some leaders will defend when challenged about asking great questions. But there is much, much more to this issue of asking great questions than just solving a specific problem or problems effectively or arriving at a particular good plan. In the next slide, I'll introduce another y-axis at the end of the slide, and let's see what's happening with team engagement during these two approaches to solving the problem. Now, in the closed leadership approach, staff engagement is not improved by the leaders working alone on the plan or solution, obviously, and although it rises a little as the team receives the instructions or plan, it soon drops again as the plan doesn't seem to be delivering much in the way of results. It rises again with the second plan, but as that also underperforms, staff engagement drops right back down. Repeatedly being given bad plans or bad decisions is a killer for staff engagement for obvious reasons, and in reality, that blue line would frequently, in my experience, be below where it started because people get so frustrated with the experience. Meanwhile, with the open leadership approach, staff engagement is significantly improved very early on as a result of being asked to get involved in planning the way forward and having the facts and the information shared to them, that respect being shown to the team. And of course, it soars as the team engages in action and starts to get results. It plateaus slightly when the full results aren't achieved, but continues to climb once again once the replan is worked through and the subsequent action gets results. And you'll notice in this graph that with the question-based open leadership approach, engagement, the blue line, is leading results. It's leading the red line. It is in effect the force that is pulling the results up to the required level. Whereas with the leader decides approach, or the tell-do approach as it's sometimes called, engagement is always lagging and it's a drag factor on the targeted results. So, the open, question-based approach helps the leader to fulfill leadership purpose by connecting the team to the issue, the options for action, etc., the rationale, the situation, as they are told about the problem and asked for their input to the solution. Then, engaging them in the planning and the action as they take action to solve the problem or execute the plan. And critically, because they are now the experts on the specific problem or plan or activity in their work area, they can take enormous growth from learning and replanning to take the action onto its 100% success. And powerfully, they also become expert at solving problems in their work area as well as on the specific issue that they were addressing. And it's this trilogy of benefits that makes asking great questions the master skill for leaders. The benefits are that you get faster and better results from and solutions to specific activities, problems and issues. You just get better, faster results. Secondly, that you get real engagement with your teams, with all of the creativity, energy, enthusiasm and loyalty that brings to the organization and to you. And thirdly, you over time you establish the creation of a learning culture where your team's ability to solve problems and own their own results is constantly improving. So in summary, choose questions over giving answers whenever you can. If you want your teams to be engaged and to become results-getting, self-managing, loyal and enthusiastic problem solvers. Choose genuine questions based on curiosity in order to lead joint discovery about the problem and a good solution or a plan of action. If you can master this, you will win. It may not be the easiest transition for some people, but the prizes are enormous and they are universal in their nature. So, hopefully you can see why helpful belief 4 is that asking questions is much better than giving answers. Now, I hope this video was useful and interesting. I know it's a little longer than the usual offering on this channel, but it is a fundamental principle. And as I say, asking great questions is the master skill for leaders, in my opinion. Let me know your thoughts below. And also, please remember to subscribe to the channel if you would. It really helps me to be able to carry on making free resources for those that need it or want it. And I will be sending out a new video every week, so also hit that subscribe, hit the reminder bell, sorry, so that you get to know when the new material comes out. That way you'll get access to the whole of the Open Leadership Approach free of charge as I release more videos in the coming weeks and months. To get access to more free resources, as I promised at the start, you can go to openleadershipbased.com. That's openleadershipbased.com. There you've got resources including excerpts from my book. You can also join the Open Leadership Based forum there, get involved in conversations with me and other leaders, share experience, ask questions, and also let me know about what content you'd like to see there on the website and here on this channel. Now, if you're impatient for an overall view of the Open Leadership Approach and don't want to wait for the full video versions to arrive as I produce them, you could buy my book, Stepping Up, How to Be Great in Your First or Next Leadership Role. It's available on Amazon. The link is in the description below. But do remember, I will be giving all of the content away and more on this channel over the coming weeks and months, as I say. So it just remains for me to say thank you once more for visiting the Open Leadership channel, and see you next time.